Carolyn Doobie here. What's the play for today? Well, today I'm playing around with some PanPastels and stencils. Now I've got kind of a steampunk vibe going on as I take bits and pieces from 4 different stencils to combine them together to make the one page. But most importantly, I'm going to share with you one of the ways that I seal PanPastels. Well, here's what I started with. A blank page in my art journal, a stencil from StencilGirl Products, and the entire rainbow of PanPastels. So I'm going to put that cosmetic sponge right in that wonderful little creamy thing of color, and I'm just going to brush it over the stencil. I'm just going to sort of stencil it, or, rub the sponge. You get what I'm doing. You can see what I'm doing. And I pulled out the entire rainbow thinking I was going to use the whole rainbow, because I really do like to use the whole thing. Except today, I'm just feeling 2 colors, the orange and the magenta, so that's what I'm going to go with. If that's the instinct I'm having, that's the play I'm going to do. Now, stencil that I'm using here from StencilGirl definitely has that steampunk vibe, but I want to fill the whole page in, and this one stencil, well, it's a 6x6 stencil, and my page is 9x12. That's not a problem because you can take stencils to fill any space that you want. Now this stencil does not perfectly match up. It does not exactly line up. And guess what? It's not gonna matter as I'm doing this. I'm just getting edges near each other. Don't have to be precise. Things do not have to line up as if an engineer had magically done it. As I'm playing around with this too, I realize I like that big open space on the bottom left, and I'm going to move my stencil around a little bit, fiddle with it to see if I like turning it, seeing if I like how things fit there, and in the end, I'm actually going to pick something different. Now, PanPastels do have a little bit of a dust to them, so what you're seeing me do there is just lift it up and give it a big blow to brush off or blow off any loose powder that's on there. A stencil that I'm using now, these are larger gears, and this stencil is created by Mary Beth Shaw. And with this, I'm going to pick just part of it. And by taking that cosmetic sponge with the PanPastel on it, I'm just going to put some rich, wonderful, creamy color all around the parts of the stencil that I want. Again, there's no contractual obligation to use an entire stencil all at once. You can use pieces and parts and pick and choose. And over on the blog, I have links to all the products that I'm using in this video. So if there's anything that you want to know more about, head on over there and check it out at colorfuljourney.com. Now, if you've seen many of my videos or visited the blog, you know how much I love to play with the entire rainbow. And it's a little strange to me looking at the entire rainbow there in PanPastels, and I'm sticking with only 2 colors. So every now and I kind of think, should I put a little green in this? What about a touch of yellow? Where that blue kind of calls to me just a little bit. The other 2 colors, that magenta and orange, are absolutely like, nope, it's our day. It's just the 2 of us today, so I'm going to stick with that, and I'm going to stay with just those. So the rest of those colors, sorry, I'll have to play with you on another day. Well, now it's like that last piece of the puzzle, except that I can make the puzzle shape any size I want, so I can flip that stencil around. I can get the image there that I want, so I can fill that in with that last piece, and then I can say that the bulk of the background here is finished. But I want to add some more to it. So, because there's still plenty of white space on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some numbers and fill them in different spots. Now, because I'm using a cosmetic sponge, it's really easy to just pick a small area of a stencil to use. So this stencil I'm using right now is my never-ending calendar stencil from over at StencilGirl Products. And the numbers that I'm picking, well, it's random. I'm just kind of looking at what I think would look good in the space. Well, now it's time to add some words. And for that, I'm going to bring in my Fridge Poetry stencil, also from over at StencilGirl Products. And I'm going to pick some words to put on here. Part of what I'm picking them is based on their size, so are they going to fit in the space that I have? But the other thing that I'm looking at is what's the meaning behind them. So I'm kind of working a little bit of both there. Now, if you've never worked with PanPastels before, they're a dry medium, which means that these things, they don't have to dry because they're not wet. They're dry. They're creamy and wonderful, but they are dry. Now, that also means that they don't have a binder in them. They don't have glue already built into them to keep them attached to the page. Because pastels, well, they're meant to be smeared and rubbed around if you use them in the traditional way. Of course, am I using them that way? No. Shocker, I'm not doing it the traditional way. And with pastels, because they're designed to be smeared, all pastels have the same issue of they will smear when you rub them. They aren't fixed on there permanently the way, like if you put acrylic paint on something, if you come along a day later and rub your hand against it, nothing happens. That's not the case with PanPastels. But I like things to be that way, so I'm going to seal them. I'm going to make it so that they actually stay locked into where they are. And to do that, I'm going to be using a gel press plate. Now, for this, I do like my plate to be very clean, and there are lots of ways to clean a plate. My favorite way is taking packing tape and putting it right on it, and it will pull up any of the loose paint that's on there, or I should say the dried paint. This technique does only work when you have a dry gel plate. So if you've got any kind of wet paint on there, this won't work, which kind of makes sense because tape does not stick to wet things. So with dry stuff, I'm basically cleaning off my gel press plate here, getting it ready so that I don't have any oddball paint transfers. And what I'm going to do is put a layer of glue on top of the PanPastels, but I want to do it without smearing anything, and that's where the gel press plate is so handy. So for the running glue that I'm going to be using that I absolutely adore, this is PPA matte, and I love it because it is absolutely so matte. Once I put it on, you can't see it. So I've brayered some of it right there onto the gel press plate, a nice thin layer, and then I'm just going to press my plate down. I'm putting the glue right on top of that, and I'm going to lift it up. Now I've got a piece of scrap paper over there, and all I'm doing is basically cleaning off that plate after each time I use it. That keeps it as clean as I'm willing to work to keep it clean, so that you don't end up with stray bits of PanPastel getting transferred here and there. So I'm going to continue doing this with the glue, and as I'm doing this, sometimes I put a little too much glue onto the gel press plate. When that happens, sometimes I'm going to be able to get 2 applications right in a row. I'm not going to have to apply more more glue each time as I do this. Now, do you have to use the 3x5 gel press plate to do this? Absolutely not. You can use any size that you want. This is the one that I just find easiest to grab and to work with. Now, as I'm doing this, the other challenge that I have is remembering where I've already been, because as soon as that PPA dries, it's hard for me to see where I've been. So the worst thing that happens is some areas of it actually get 2 layers of the PPA on it, and it's not going to make any difference in the end. Now in a moment, I'm going to show you the white glove test. That way I'm sure that I've got everything sealed completely. But while I'm finishing up getting the PPA applied here on the page, if you've been enjoying this video, I'd so appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of my videos, hit that subscribe button. That way you'll know as soon as I have a new video out. And of course, you know I would really appreciate it if you know somebody that you think would enjoy this video if you'd share it with them. Well, now I've just about got this sealed up with the PPA, so now it's time to test it. The white glove test. It's really a white Kleenex test. So I rub that along it, and if the Kleenex comes out completely white, then I know that it is completely sealed and it's all locked in there. If anywhere I pick up a little bit of color, like I picked up just a little bit of pink there, then that means that if I want it totally sealed down and locked up tightly, then I'm going to need to just do another quick application of the PPA in any of those areas. Well, thanks so much for joining me for today's play. I hope you've had as much fun as I have. Now, if you'd like to have more fun, if you don't want it to end here, head on over to the blog at acolorfuljourney.com and get signed up for my newsletter, because there's a downloadable video and PDF waiting for you. And of course, I have more videos, so you can check out all my PanPastel videos here on YouTube. Thanks so much for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.